The repair shop smelled of burnt oil and cold, unyielding iron. Daniel stood at the back workbench, his fingers tracing the jagged edge of a broken gear. He knew every bolt, every spring, and every hidden catch of the machines that lined the walls. He had spent years here, yet he remained a ghost. When the front door bell chimed, he did not look up. He pressed his pliers against the metal, his knuckles whitening as he focused on the task. He kept his head low, shoulders hunched, waiting for the footsteps to pass. The shop was a cavern of echoes, and he was the silence within it. His boss paced the front floor, heavy boots striking the concrete with a rhythmic, demanding thud. "Daniel, the engine is stalling," the boss shouted. Daniel did not answer. He simply reached for a wrench, his movements precise and practiced. He feared the sound of his own voice in the open air. He feared the judgment that might follow a single misspoken word. The cycle of his silence felt like a heavy weight, a barrier between him and the rest of the world. He tightened a bolt, turned a screw, and stayed in the shadows, letting the machine speak for him while the shop hummed with the business of others. The shift happened in a heartbeat. The boss stumbled, clutched his chest, and collapsed against the workbench. He gasped, reached into his pocket, and shoved a heavy ring of keys onto the counter. "It is yours for 2 days," he rasped, before he was carried out. Daniel stood alone. The shop felt cavernous, the silence suddenly sharp and demanding. He gripped the keys until his knuckles turned white, the metal biting into his skin. He waited. The bell chimed. A man entered, dragging a rusted lawnmower that scraped against the concrete. The customer looked at Daniel, waiting for a greeting that did not come. "Is the motor salvageable?" the man asked, his voice echoing off the high ceiling. Daniel knew the fix, a simple carburetor adjustment. He opened his mouth, but his tongue felt like lead. He looked at the floor, his eyes fixed on a grease stain near his boots. Another worker stepped forward, took the job, and the moment vanished. Daniel turned away, his chest tight, and retreated into the back room. Daniel sat on the concrete curb, his boots scuffed against the grit of the street. Above him, the streetlights flickered to life, casting long, wavering shadows across the asphalt. He stared at his hands, still stained with the day's grease, and felt the hollow ache of the afternoon's failure. A cane tapped against the pavement, rhythmic and steady. Mr. Cole sat down beside him, the wood of the cane resting between them. Daniel did not look up. "I know the machines," Daniel whispered, "but I am invisible." Mr. Cole leaned forward, the metal tip of his cane striking the ground with a sharp, decisive crack. "Confidence is not a feeling you wait for," the old man said. "It is a muscle. You have to tear it to make it grow. You have to push until it hurts, then push again." Daniel stood up, his legs steady, and looked toward the dark storefront. The fear remained, but the paralysis had broken. The shop was a hive of activity when the sun hit the front window. Daniel stood behind the counter, his heart hammering against his ribs like a trapped bird. A woman approached, holding a broken drill with a frayed cord. He stepped forward, his legs feeling heavy, as if moving through deep water. "The battery contact is loose," he said. His voice was thin, but it cut through the hum of the shop. The woman nodded. "Thank you. That is helpful." A jolt of electricity surged through his chest. He took a deep, steadying breath and turned to the next customer. He explained a complex repair, stumbled over a technical term, paused, and corrected himself. The customer did not laugh. They listened. By the third interaction, Daniel stood taller. He spoke with a rhythm that felt entirely his own. The air in the shop was no longer stifling. 2 days later, the bell chimed. The boss walked in, his face pale but his eyes sharp. He stopped dead in his tracks, watching Daniel finish a repair explanation. The boss stared, his mouth slightly open. Daniel looked up, locked eyes with him, and did not look away. The silence had finally been broken. Months passed, and the rhythm of the shop shifted. Daniel became the pulse of the workbench, his voice a constant, reliable fixture among the clatter of tools. He learned to own his mistakes, apologizing clearly when a diagnosis missed the mark. then returning to the work with renewed focus. One afternoon, a regular customer leaned over the counter, watching Daniel calibrate a delicate spring. "You have a gift for this," the man said, gesturing to the rows of organized equipment. "You should run your own shop." Daniel paused. He looked at the tools he had mastered, then toward the front door, and finally back at the customer. The hesitation that once gripped his throat was gone. He did not look at the floor. He did not search for permission. "Maybe I will," he said. The air in the room felt light. The silence was replaced by the steady, certain sound of his own voice.